Yes. Yes, y'all. Peace and love. It's your man, Manny Faces. What's good, peoples? This is Hip-Hop Can Save America, the live stream show. Streaming to you live and direct. Uh, what is this? December 30th. Almost the end of 2024. We're at the cusp of the new year. And here we are on Hip-Hop Can Save America, the only media ecosystem. And I say media ecosystem because we got a newsletter, we got the live stream, and we got a podcast. So it's a media ecosystem, the only media ecosystem whose sole responsibility, whose sole mission, whose sole purpose is to elevate and amplify and signal boost the ways that hip hop music and culture are helping uplift humanity and improve society. Oh, do you not think that's a thing? Perhaps you should spend more time with us. Do you think that's a thing that used to be the case but isn't happening today? You should spend more time with us. Do you think that hip hop has no place in education or health care or politics or self-help or spirituality? Oh, you should spend more time with us. Or in business or in entrepreneurship? Oh, you need to spend more time with us, because what we talk about here on this show, and shouts to everyone who's tuned in and turned up with us live. I appreciate you. Shouts to the replay coalition, if you're watching on the replay. But what we're doing here is we're finding ways to improve society and uplift humanity. Now, that starts with the folks who have been most marginalized and most oppressed and most underserved and under-resourced and underloved by society as a whole. It starts with the communities from whence hip-hop came. Okay, now, you know, you see me. I'm not necessarily from those communities. I'm not from those demographics, but hip-hop is an all-inclusive and welcoming culture. And through my allegiance and affiliation with hip-hop, I found my way into this place that we are here, where I'm a collector of knowledge, I'm an amplifier of voices, and I, know how to put together a stream pretty well. So my job is to, again, tell those stories and spread those messages so that we can all prosper. Not using hip-hop, like you would use somebody, not like culture, especially from Black Americans and other marginalized groups, have been stolen and repurposed and reused for benefits of folks that are not from those communities, but for those communities first and foremost, and then, just as hip-hop trickles out and helps out everybody. So that's our mission here. We're finding ways to do that through hip-hop music and culture in areas like education, in areas like health and wellness, in areas like science and technology, and business and entrepreneurship, and the fine arts, and so many ways. So if this is foreign to you, if this is your first time tuning in and listening and hearing these words, you're like, what? How can hip-hop help my business? How can hip-hop help save lives or reach young people and uplift them, when all I hear, all I know is hip hop in these negative ways? Well, that's what we do here. We tell you different, and we explain it to you. So this is good to you. This feels good. I know hip hop can do this. I'm in the right place. You're in the right place. If you're a person that doesn't understand any of this, or if you know someone that needs to know this, but they don't know about us, please share this. Give this video a thumbs up. If this opening assault that I've given you of mission-driven purpose statement resonates with you, give us a thumbs up, share this with your peoples, and let's get into it. What I'm here to do tonight is show you what I like to call the year in review. The year in review. So when I say that on this show, what we do here is we talk about all the ways that hip-hop music and culture has been used to uplift humanity and improve society. I'm not just saying this like it's a hypothetical thing, right? I'm not saying it as if I'm making this up. This is factual. This is receipts and proven. And so I want you to know Andrew Wang in the building says this feels like a Def Jam poem. Yeah, I'm doing spoken word tonight. Let's go. And I'm here to preach a little bit. Yeah, I'm preaching. I'm spreading the gospel. Because I know that the most brilliant people that I've ever met in my life, the most creative, the most constructive, the most creative and loving and brilliant people I've ever met in my life have been through hip hop. And most of them have been from the New York area and from cities, but also global, like in America, but also globally. The people we talk to on this show are so inspirational. We've talked to people who use hip hop in the education space to improve engagement from young people, mental health professionals who use hip hop to connect to young people in a way that traditional, like old school or long-standing mental health procedures and methodologies can't do. Hip hop's found a way to do that, help those young kids, help them, improve their lives and their mental health and mental well-being. People who teach all kind of subjects through hip hop, computer programming through hip hop, reaching young people that may have never had that connection to that field, right? Through computer programming, financial literacy, architecture, shouts to the hip hop architecture camp, forestry, like so many wild subjects that get taught to young people in a way that, number one, is more engaging. Number two, often helps benefit young people who don't have access to certain fields because they live in economically challenged, school districts or communities, and they don't get the resources that, folks who look like me get. And so hip hop balances that and comes in and fills those voids. So we've seen that in all kinds of fields. And I talk to the people who are doing that work. I don't do that work, although I help facilitate it sometimes. Facts. And I work on some podcasts that aren't this one that, help facilitate these things. But that's what I do is I tell the stories of the people. So for the year in review, what I want to run through is this may be your first time checking in. You may not really know what we're doing. You may not realize I have this history and I've been doing this for a long, long time. And the dope people that come through this show have messages to spread. Now, we're obviously not going to play the interviews and talk to we have, what did I do last month? I forget, this year, 2024, we had, I said I was an email, so I can't really look at it right now. Something like 40 something interviews, 47 or something like that, 26 newsletter editions spreading this message. Look, I got a whole newsletter here. You can see at the bottom. That's the call to action tonight. Subscribe to the newsletter. So we do this all year round. 26 newsletter editions, spreading news, hip hop news that isn't about dumb-ish, giving you examples of what this looks like in practice so that in your world, because the end goal here is to not just say, you have to be a teacher, you have to be a mental health professional. No. Whatever you do can be improved upon. You can bring more people in. You could be more authentic. You could get a better connection culturally to the areas that you live or the communities that you serve or the audiences you're trying to reach. And if you have an authentic connection with hip hop music and culture, because it is the youth culture of today, whether you want to believe it or not, your kids know hip hop, whether you're in, Brooklyn, New York, or in Boise, Idaho, or anywhere in between. Flyover states or East Coast elites, your kids know hip hop. But you got to be authentic about the connection. And that's what we're trying to get across. So this is inspiration for everybody, but particularly if you have young people in your lives that you are charged, you have the authority over them, and you claim to care about them, especially if you have young people from marginalized communities in your care. If you are not looking at hip hop as a way to improve whatever it is you're doing, you are doing them a disservice, and some would say you're committing violence upon them because you may have a misunderstanding of what hip-hop can and should and does do. We're here to change that narrative, and that's what we've been doing for the past year, and that's what we'll be doing for all the forward movements. Shouts to Andrew Wang in the building. Shouts to Bob Knutson in the building. Andrew, I didn't even put the montage up, but you know what? Let's do the montage. This is what the montage looks like to show people a little bit of what we're talking about. Shouts to Crowned and Beats up in the place to be. Again, some people just come through, and I love it that, y'all have come through like later in the year and kind of missed some of the early stuff. So we're going to go back. And then, of course, the trick here is to go back and watch those videos at length, anything that might stand out as to what we go over today. So it's going to be rapid fire. I'm going to go through, a bunch of things, but a quick flurry to show you, I guess, what we're talking about. Check it out. Hold on, I have to. Oh, yeah, and I love this guy at the beginning. I don't know if you know him, but you might know him. So let me go, how about this view right here? And we'll do a little theater mode. Might be too big. Let's see. Let's go.
I am Brother Cornell West, and this is
Hip-Hop Can Save America.
The thing about hip-hop today is it's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip-hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you, and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do when there reach for you.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do. Hip-hop is something you live.
So hip-hop didn't invent anything, but hip-hop reinvented everything.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
Yeah. And of course, if you didn't know, now you know, we're live every Monday night, 9 p.m. here on YouTube. If you're watching, I try to tie into Facebook. I used to multi-stream, and I'm exclusively on YouTube. And I tried to give Facebook a little love today, and I don't think it worked. So I don't know where the hell that stream is going. But we're here live on YouTube every Monday night. And those faces that you saw and those names and those topics were just a flurry of all the people that we've talked to. So again, I'll say something real honest. If y'all know me, I've been doing this for a long time. I had a magazine an online publication called Birthplace Magazine. And I covered New York area hip hop music and culture. And it was at a time when a lot of people weren't covering hip hop music and culture in New York. The industry had moved on. And I started this magazine in that to cover that, to fill that void. And I covered all the great stuff that was happening in New York, even though the rest of the country had written us off. And I would be doing stuff like this. I used to have a live podcast. We had call-ins. It was sort of like, it was called the New York Hip-Hop Report. And it was like sports talk radio. And people would call in and we'd talk about whatever happened that week in New York, or artists from New York, or independent stuff happened in New York. And it was very New York-centric, and I loved it. And in fact, I might do in 2025 for this show, I'd like to invite like call-ins, and I think that'd be cool. So if y'all want to have like your 2 cents, like you want to, if I'm talking about a topic or some hip hop news and you actually want to give your 2 cents, that we could actually have a call-in kind of thing, let me know if that'd be cool. We could set that up. And one of the things that someone said to me as a critique, everyone loved what I was doing. I had a hip hop calendar in New York. I was the only one doing it. Really single-handedly, I mean, humble brag, but there's nobody, I think, on the planet, at least during that decade, that cared about or promoted New York hip hop, New York area hip hop. Shouts to Jersey, shouts to Westchester, shouts to Long Island, shouts to the whole kind of, I wouldn't say tri-state, but we touched on some of the other boroughs and outer regions as well. Nobody cared about or promoted or spent or dedicated as much time, energy, or expense to New York hip hop than me. And I'm humble bragging, but that's the fact. There's nobody that did it more than me, because it was all we focused on. It was all I did editorially. It had to fall in within that box. And one of the critiques one day was, well, the problem with Birthplace Magazine, or the problem with whatever, is it's too much Manny Faces. Because I was doing it all. I was writing the articles, I was writing the editorials, I was at the shows, I was taking the photograph. Like I couldn't expand it and make money off of it, so I couldn't pay anyone. And I had some volunteers, and shouts to Steve Ortiz and rest in peace the late great AD the General, and a bunch of people that wrote for Bernadette, and a bunch of people that wrote but it wasn't a lot, and I couldn't pay people, and I didn't feel right not doing that. The long story short here is that even though it's my face and my name and my drop when I say,
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
sure, whatever. This is to amplify stories of other people doing this work. They don't get the chance to market themselves. They're doing the work. Hip hop in education, hip hop in mental health therapy, hip hop and, all these different areas, and the hip hop mindset. We're going to talk about all these people tonight. So I'm just saying all this to say, it may be me and it may be my voice and my amplification and my, rambunctiousness or whatever the case may be. The point is that there are hundreds of people. I have a list so long of people that I haven't even talked to. The way you can help me talk to more people, by the way, is right here. Patreon.com/Manny Faces. This costs money. This costs time. I'm trying to make a living doing other things, and this is all on the side. They don't pay for this. They don't want us to talk about how hip hop could help save America. They want hip hop to help denigrate America. You know what I mean? So we can make hip hop help save America. And again, it starts with the communities that have been long overlooked and underloved and underserved and under-resourced, from whence hip hop came. We can start there, and then we can actually improve everybody because it's the same universal aspects. So again, let's talk about it real quick. The people I talked to this year have been phenomenal. There's two ways that you can see these interviews or hear these interviews. Number one is here, where you're watching on YouTube. All these interviews we did all video this year. I switched to all video at the end of last year, tested a few, runs, and then started in earnest at the beginning of this year. If you look at the podcast stream, the audio podcast stream, Hip Hop Save America on any podcast app, you'll see the same names and the same interviews. I basically do them in video, put them on the live stream, then rip the audio and put them on the podcast feed. People still, most of our listens come from the podcast feed. We'd like to get this going a little bit more, the YouTube. So please, once again, thumbs up for your boy, thumbs up for the cause, and give a share while we're talking tonight. Once again, shouts to everyone in the chat. Keep it going. Give me a 2 cents. I'm going to jump in and out and talk to y'all while I'm reminding you some of the people we talked to. First and foremost, we started off with my man, my mellow. His name is Jay Rawls, Dr. Jay Rawls. He's a professor of hip hop at the Ohio State University. Professor of hip hop. Okay. We talk about universities and academia now welcoming hip hop into their halls as more than just a gimmick, or more than just a way to, maybe get kids, young people to, come to their college. We have a hip hop course. That's cool. But do you have a department? Are you working on curriculum? Are you letting people be full professors, not just adjuncts? Are you really dedicating, excuse me, are you really dedicating resources to the success of hip hop? And now Jay Rawls is amazing. He's he's been a beat maker for many, many years. He goes back in history. We've talked to him in conjunction with one of his partners, my man J.R. John Robinson. Together they wrote I didn't prepare any of this. I'm just going off memory. These are the people that I know and I talk about. So if you need to know who's doing what in the world of anything and hip hop, just talk to me. You can see this is all encyclopedic knowledge. Where him and J.R. Robinson wrote a book, a curriculum guide for people who want to incorporate hip hop in the classroom. We had John Robinson on the show. I don't know if it was this year or maybe it was last year. It had to do with the Questlove situation, where he was not happy with the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef. So it had to be this year. John Robinson's been on the show, sort of an unofficial interview. Didn't post it anywhere, but if you missed the live stream, you missed these things. Anyway, so John Robinson, so Jay Rawls is at the Ohio State University. We had a great talk about what that means to be 1 foot in, like, absolutely in the production world, absolutely in the culture, absolutely in the, the game. Like, like a musician, a practitioner, but also one foot in the academic space. And a lot of the conversations we have on this show, yeah, Andrew Wang, that's right. Jay Rawls works with Talib Kweli. Just did a small tour with Talib. So this is not like, some guy that was in his, basement doing music. He worked on with the Black Star album back in the days, continues to work and inspire young people, not only young people who want to do hip hop music and for a living, but also that this is what we start to really get into this year, that hip hop mindset, that hip hop mentality of bringing your authentic culture with you wherever you go. And that includes higher education, and how important that is, and how that can help you in other areas of focus. So if your young people aren't being welcomed, if they don't feel comfortable in their skin when they walk into a high school or a college, they're going to be feeling some type of way. Dr. Jay Rawls, PhD, come on now, talks about what that's all about. So shouts to Dr. Jay Rawls. Great conversation. Said one time, one of the big takeaways from that interview is that young people don't often know that they're hip hop. They don't know that what they have adopted is this, there's Black culture in America. There's sort of hip hop culture. There's this Venn diagram where they kind of intersect, and then people take their own variations of it and make it a thing. And that becomes hip hop culture, right? And so there's advantages to understanding that dynamic with young people and helping them get more, in tuned with what they need to do in life. We continued that this year with a brother named Unlearn the World, another practitioner, this time in the nonprofit sector. So when we talk about nonprofits, now, if there are any nonprofit leaders, executive directors watching this, you probably have, you certainly have a mission, right? A mission-driven, statement, an idea of what to do with your nonprofit. And it's probably to try to help humanity in some way or some aspect of it, youth or underprivileged folk or whatever the case may be. Now, Unlearn the World works for a organization that does this. It's called Hip Hop for Change, and they incorporate hip hop into that work. It's about hip hop. It's using hip hop to help young people build their self-esteem and have curriculum and education and all these things these intersections that we're talking about. But I'm going to tell you again, if you're a nonprofit leader, an executive director, a program director, in any aspect of what you're doing, you're trying to reach the world, to amplify your mission. You must have a hip hop mentality when you're doing this. This means either you can communicate to the people, young people, older people now. Hip hop is 50 years old. So we respond to messaging in that way. If you have an antiquated messaging system in a nonprofit organization that isn't taking into consideration the way that younger generations speak or the things that we react to or understand or hear, you are failing in your communication strategy. So when I say hip hop can save America, it's not just music and it's not just hip hop. It's not necessarily anything that has to do with entertainment or rapping or the elements or DJing or parties or any of that. It's a way of thinking and a way of communicating, right? Unlearn the World does both at the same time. He is a practitioner. He's a great rap artist, just put out an album that we talked about on this interview. And he also is the education director for Hip-Hop for Change, which is a nonprofit that seeks to uplift young people through hip-hop music and culture. So you can do both in a nonprofit setting. But if you're in a nonprofit setting and you're not using hip-hop, and especially if you trying to touch young people, and we talked to a slew of people that are doing this, from getting young people involved in tech, young people getting involved in, sort of self-esteem and self-expression. We talk about all these types of folks. So shouts to Unlearn the World, who is another brother that exemplifies that. We'll keep it going. This is all rapid fire. So we're going to talk about Nadira Simmons. Wrote a book called First Things First, Hip Hop Ladies Who Changed the Game. on this show, we have to talk about all of the elements. We have to talk about all of the wonderful things. If, by the way, if this is resonating with you, give a thumbs up and share this. Give a comment. Come on now, let's go. Nadira Simmons came out and talked about her book, First Things First, which is a chronicling of, I have it here somewhere. I got so many books now. I have it here. I promise you I have it here somewhere. But chronicling of some of the key women figures in hip hop. I don't like to always separate and make that distinction of, oh, who's a dope female MC? First of all, it's woman. I think that we've established by now we shouldn't be saying female when we talk about a person. But okay, who's your best woman MC? I see this Facebook post, all these engagement traps. What female MC can out rap any man? There's plenty of women MCs that can out rap men men MCs. It's a garbage question. It's an engagement trap. The implication there is that women don't matter as much, and that they need to be it's a rarity that a woman can out rap a man, that a woman can do. Come on, get out of here with all that. It's a misogynistic world, so it's a misogynistic industry, and therefore you have a misogynistic genre. For the record, hip hop is not misogynistic, right? That's a myth. That's a misnomer that most people who are outside of hip hop or not fully tuned into hip hop don't quite get. We're not talking about a misogynistic by nature thing. Humanity is misogynistic. America is misogynistic. Your religion is misogynistic. Your family members are misogynistic, and people are misogynistic. And if hip hop is a reflection of humanity, in many ways, the art that reflects humanity, then you're going to get all of that spilling in. So what we must do is spend at least as much time talking about all the elements of hip hop, all the generations of hip hop, all the gender, roles within hip hop. And that includes women, that includes non-binary, that includes LGBTQ communities. And if you're not doing that, then you're not representing hip hop culture. All of these groups fall under hip hop culture. Anyway, so Nadira Simmons wrote a great book about women in hip hop. I think it was during Women's History Month that we interviewed her. It was we interviewed her, that I interviewed her. See, even I'm so humble. It's my whole team. Look at my whole team. Anyway, so great interview, great book. I enjoyed it. I wanted to share it with y'all, and you should do that. Speaking about that, going forward in time. Woo-wee. You're rocking with me? Y'all still with me in the chat? I know it's a lot of talk and it's a lot of rapid fire. Shouts to the shirt, by the way. I know I don't want y'all to think I'm rocking a Taco Bell shirt. Just have to, you know what I mean. And shouts to the Kangol. Little fly design right there. So I don't, like I said, there's a lot of talk. I'm going rapid fire because if you missed any of these interviews, you have to catch them. You have to you have to go back and tell your peoples. You have to amplify this. You have to spread the word, not for me again, because like I said, I'm the face and I'm the voice, but it's for all these people that are doing this brilliance. Hip hop, psychology, and activism with Dr. Adia Winfrey. Shouts to Dr. Dia, as she's affectionately known. She's in Alabama. She's a psychologist. She's worked with hip hop in the psychology sector, but she's also transitioned to the political sphere. When I say hip hop can save America, I've always said I don't know if it's all we need to save America, and it depends on your viewpoints of what does America need saving from. But politically speaking, I think that it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you rest on. I think the idea is that most people in America, Democrat, Republican, city, rural, white, black, Hispanic, immigrant, native born, most people in America feel like their voice is not being heard, right? That they can't make a difference. And it's a longer conversation. I do some work with some politically active folk and some podcasts that delve upon this stuff. But if you think of, and that's true, our voices don't really matter as much as they should. We don't get heard. We can't move the needle. It's true. And that disillusionment is what each major party feeds on every political cycle. And that's why it's like back and forth and 50-50 and very tribal and us against you and my team and your team and my side and your side, because we each feel the same thing. We just don't like recognize that we're all mostly in the same boat. If we are the 99%, the millionaires and billionaires, we're kind of all in the same boat. So if you think about anyone who feels like their voice isn't being heard, and you look back at the history of hip hop and what it started from and where it started and what was there, its entire essence was built upon we're not being seen, we're not being heard. And I'm talking about the Bronx, New York in the 1970s, early 1970s, when New York City shut down the city and there was no resources and there were no after school programs and there were no music and arts programs. Hell, there were no firefighters and policemen in the Bronx, and the Bronx was burning and it was rubble. And it looked like it was a war-torn city. And young people felt like we don't have a voice. Nobody's listening to us. We don't matter. And out of that desperation and that, this terrible feeling, like we all feel that at some point in our lives, but it's really hard to like say that it could be worse in America than living in poverty and having your city, say drop dead to you, and having landlords burn down your buildings for the insurance money, and gang violence being unchecked and uncontrolled, and Ronald Reagan walking through the city saying, yeah, whatever. And out of that, rubble grew roses, and out of that, destruction grew creativity, and out of that conflict grew collaboration, and that creativity and that art and that coming together is what we know as hip hop. And when people were writing their name on a graffiti train throughout the city, it wasn't to vandalize. It wasn't, it kind of was to say like F you to the system, but it was to say, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, but this is my name, or the name I chose for myself. This is how I want to be seen. And I found a train and I got a spray can and I painted it in a way that nobody else is doing. This is my style. This is my name. I exist. You gonna know I exist. You're gonna see me. And from that grew a worldwide form of cultural and social expression that's unparalleled, where you can go to any country in the world and see hip hop and see it as a form of expression, of self-expression, of artistry and creativity that's unmatched, because all you need, and you don't even need one mic, Nas, all you need is your voice. All you need is your body to dance, and dance is a form of expression. All you need, shouts to Andrew Wang, loves the beatbox. All you need is the beatbox. All you need is a mouth. You don't even need to be able. There's physically challenged folk who do hip hop. Like, you don't need, there's nothing that can stop a person that wants to express themselves through one of the elements of hip hop. So when I look at political movements, when I look at people out there in the world, in this country especially, who feel like they don't have their voice heard, and I see political movements try to tap into the power of hip hop and do it so sloppily and so irresponsibly and so ignorantly. You call some superstars, you put them on stage, you talk with some slang, you go to the Breakfast Club, or you go to Math Hoffa, or you go to some podcast. That's not hip hop, bro. That's not how you interact with the people, with the authenticity and the power and the love of hip hop. Dr. Dia knows how to do this authentically, and she's doing it on the ground in Alabama with an organization called Transform Alabama. Now, shouts to Dr. Tasha Iglesias, my other organization that I'm a vice chair. called the Hip Hop Association for Advancement in Education, and the bi-yearly, what is it, like every 2 years, the Global Conference on Hip Hop Education. We want to spend some time in Alabama. We want to go into Selma. We want to talk to what Dr. D is doing. They have a Jubilee Festival every year celebrating Selma and the Pettus Bridge, situation. It's called the Jubilee. It happens every year, and every year they have a hip hop, political hip hop summit. She's on the ground with this organization called Transform Alabama, where they have led some changes in legislation. And I'm not saying that anybody can't go and change legislation and can't be a politically motivated figure. I'm saying that people that come from hip hop look at it a different way. And it can be more effective when someone from hip hop is leading those efforts. And Dr. Winfrey is doing that in Alabama. We talked about it. If that interests you, if that makes like sense to you, if that resonates with you, if that touches you, please, let's talk to Dr. Winfrey. I'm shouting out the one of the loves of my online life, Natalie Crew. 100% Ill Abilities Crew, right? Definitely Crew, right? Like, I'm so overdue. And this is just don't blame my heart, blame the fact that I'm one person and that not enough people contribute to the patreon.com/Manny Faces. But these are great organizations that are doing this kind of work. Again, just like we talked about with folks with physical difficulties, with cognitive difficulties that are still doing hip hop. I've got a guy, he's in the UK, but I don't care. We'll do Hip Hop Can Save America, but we'll bring him in. Hip Hop Save the World is next, but we're going to bring him in who does incredible work with folks who are cognitively challenged and using hip hop I saw a presentation from this brother. So it's all on my list. I'm doing the best I can. Help support the movement. Absolutely, hip-hop connects to Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence. Andrew Wang, I like to talk like I don't know what I'm talking about, and I just interview people who are smarter than me, but I know all about Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences, and absolutely 1,000%. Matter of fact, Dr. Elliot Gann, who was on this program, talked about that in some detail about real neuroscience, and this was not this year, so I didn't highlight him in this recap. Dr. Elliot Gann, who does therapeutic beat making with an organization called Today's Future Sound, talks about this in his interview. So you need to go back and check that out as well. Definitely applications for neurodivergent folk through hip hop that are unique to hip hop, that are unlike everything else that has been tried and attempted. There's something about hip hop, and that's what we're trying to like really get across to folks, tonight. Just as a recap of some of the people that I talked to this year, and this is just 1 year. I've done this for a couple of years. We weren't always video. We weren't always doing live streams, and we're moving forward. So shouts to you if you're tuned in and turned up with us. By the way, just again, the Patreon at the bottom, the newsletter, I'm switching to the free newsletter that talks about all these things at mannyfaces.substack.com. I just can't understand how you would be watching this for 4 minutes and not signed up to mannyfaces.substack.com. It's the newsletter that talks about all of these things. So please do it. It's free. It's there. It's a resource. It's wonderful. It's inspiring. And it's great. Dr. Murray Foreman was on the show. Another long overdue. This brother's an OG, a real OG in the hip hop studies movement, in the academic sense. One of the co-editors, the third edition now of That's the Joint, the Hip Hop Studies Reader. This is 940,000 pages. It's a giant tome, right? Giant book. It's basically a textbook for hip hop studies. It's used all across the world. It's the text. Along with, of course, the great Mark Anthony Neal out of Duke, right? Out of Duke University. And in this edition, I think this was her first time joining Dr. Regina Bradley, who is here in Georgia, teaches down here, and is a scholar of Southern hip hop. Shouts to the Red Clay scholar, Regina Bradley, who I got to meet once I moved down here to Atlanta, and is just brilliant. And I love them. And thank you, Nat Crew. The newsletter is fire. I'm doing better. I looked at it. I did 26 this year. Now I wanted to go weekly, and I'm supposed to do it weekly. And again, this is the, we're talking about the newsletter again, real quick. This is This is, oh yeah, there you go. So all kind of, look at all these editions that I put out. And the best part about the newsletter, you know, in general, is, I give a little, 2 cents. Sometimes I do an editorial, and I share this section that I like to call
Hip-hop news that isn't about dumb shit.
Damn, y'all heard me cough? I thought it was only, anyway, sorry. Hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. And what I do is I curate and I collect all these different stories that you're not going to hear about if you just go to your hip-hop media outlet. And you're not going to hear about if you go to, your mainstream media outlet. They are far and few in between. I'm just looking at one random edition from July, and the first story was in the New York Times. Next story was from NASA, like the government agency, the space people. The next one was from Cron.com about Megan Thee Stallion doing some philanthropy work out in Houston. The next one was from The Guardian. The next one was from Fox 5 DC. The next one was from UNC, which is the University of North Carolina, one of their own stories. One was from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution about the Young Thug trial. One was a press release from our good friends Rhythms of Healing, who I talked to this year. One was from WCCBcharlotte.com. You're not going to find these stories about amazing, innovative, and inspirational use of hip-hop. You're just not going to find that. No one's doing this. It's the greatest. If I'm writing the newsletter for people, we're a weird bunch. I'm going off topic. I want to keep recapping. Shouts to the Knicks who won tonight. That's right. Let me see if my prize picks. Hold on. Let me see if I made some money on the Knicks tonight. Come on. I know they won. I'm really going off topic now. Let's see. What happened? Yes! Got 2 out of 3. Thank you, Carl Anthony Towns. All right, look. We're a weird bunch who tune into me and to follow this show. We love hip-hop. We love the music. We love the gossip. We love the entertainment. We love the drama. We do. We're still hip-hop heads, right? Most of us. Some of us. Most of us. But we also have this understanding that hip-hop is more than that, more than the gossip and the music and the entertainment and the drama and the clickbait and we revel in it. We're excited by it. We want to see how it could be translated to our lives. How can I take this love of hip-hop? That's all I'm doing. I used to want to be a rapper. I used to make beats. Google Manny Faces remixes, bro. I'm outside on the internets. I'm a DJ. I still spin. But when I got older, I realized, how can I use my talents, my gifts, my privilege, my position? I worked in journalism, and I said, ooh. And I learned, and I said, well, let me start an outlet that talks about New York hip-hop and shed some light. So all we should be doing, we're a weird bunch. I think what we want to do, I think the people that are here, and I'd like to get us to talk more often, maybe during the week. I got a Discord if y'all want to jump on a Discord. I'm letting that cat out the bag. Because we're always looking for ways to, number one, inspire us that the music and the culture we love is still worth loving. Because most of what's out there doesn't give us that impression. It's not their job. They don't care about the culture of hip-hop culture. They care about the music and the entertainment and the business and the commerce. They don't care about the stuff we talk about here. And a lot of people don't. I could get a lot more. Look at all the fancy stuff I do. I'd get so many more people paying attention to me if I talked about all the bullshit that they talk about. And I'm not mad at them for it. There's a place for that. But here we talk about things like what I'm talking about and what we cover in the newsletter. And folks like, let's bring it back now to the recap. These are people I talked to just this year alone. Dr. Murray Foreman, again, co-editor of That's the Joint, written a lot of books and articles and literature in academia, but this guy cares about the culture. This guy is a true blue, ally and fan of the culture and friend of the culture. wrote a great book that's here called Hip-Hop Archives. We talk about, well, I didn't write it, but edit it. Oh my God. Hip-Hop Archives. So we talk about the importance of folks who are doing archival work. This was a big topic last week when we talked about, the need to archive hip hop in academic circles, but also in community-based spaces. He's done some work along those lines. I got to hang out with him in person. We've known each other, seen each other once, twice. We got to hang out in Ireland at the, what was it called? The Global Hip Hop Studies Conference. I forget the name of the organization. But they were super dope. And we had an international gathering. So I got to talk to people who are doing hip hop studies in Europe, plus a lot of American folk that were out there. Dr. A.D. Carson was out there. My man Mikhail Amin was out there. Mazi Mutafa from Words, Beats, and Live was out there. Dr. Def, Dawn Elisa Fisher was out there. Got to meet her and hang out with her. So many great, brilliant minds that really care about this culture. Like, they really care. They're not just in it for whatever. They're like me. It's a sacrifice to do this work because you don't get jobs. You don't get called. You don't get teaching gigs trying to do all this. You don't get big numbers. Y'all are the best that are right in here. Drop a Science Conference, right, is Drop a Science Conference, the Global Hip Hop Studies Association, whatever. I talked about it, and we had a great time out there. It was their 7th annual one. This stuff happens all over the world, bro. And Murray Foreman was great about, again, balancing that leg, one leg in culture, one leg in academia. Super informative and super helpful to really. Oh, Bob Knudsen says, I came across a punk rock community trying to start a mixtape archive similar to some hip hop ones. Yeah, man, super important. And obviously across the board, archiving humanity is important. Punk rock is great because it's about that same. Hip hop is interesting with the archive. And again, we're going to have in 2025, I want to start doing sort of panels and have 2 or 3 people on an evening to talk about a topic instead of me just relaying what I've learned from those folks. And archiving is a huge one, but super shouts to, I shouted these folks out before, but Summer McCoy, the consulting producer of this show forever, my friend and colleague who runs the Mixtape Museum, trying to digitize all those mixtapes, those cassette mixtapes from hip hop DJs and park jams and live performances from the early days of hip hop. That's hard work. A lot of stuff only exists in these formats that degrade over time. And of course, that's really dope because punk rock, of course, came up at the same time as hip hop. Punk rock helped amplify hip hop. If you really, remember the beginnings of hip hop, that punk rock clubs would allow hip hop artists to play, in them downtown from, the whole uptown to downtown thing, the Fab Five Freddy, going down to the punk rock clubs, CBGBs and places like that in New York City, because they were hip hop was raw and rough and the R&B clubs weren't trying to hear it. And as we know, even New York radio wasn't supporting hip hop in the beginning. There's always been a synergy between, and the energies and the attitudes were similar. There's always been a synergy between hip hop and punk rock. And so what I would love is for the folks that are in the punk rock scene that are trying to do that to reach out to the folks that are in the hip hop scene doing that. And maybe they can, share resources or share best practices, which is so glad that, we're here to talk about this. So that people who might be in one of those worlds might say, oh, damn, I didn't even think about this hip hop archiving thing that Manny's talking about, and reach out to me and I'll connect people. That's right. Yeah. Orleans Grocery. Yeah. Andrew Wang, your buddy has a huge collection of mixtapes, then make sure they're getting archived, and reach out to me offline and we can, link up with the folks at the Mixtape Museum, or just Google the Mixtape Museum, reach out to my homie Summer, and make sure that happens. Beastie Boys did start out as a punk group. And again, punk. So there's definitely some really, synergistic things with hip hop and punk. And again, it just kind of goes to the idea of unity and community. and the way that hip hop can reach across all kind of aisles. We're going to be here all night if I keep going this slow. I want to recap some of the important people that we talked to this year on Hip Hop Can Save America. Again, the live stream Mondays, 9 p.m. Eastern. Also the audio version on the audio feed, any podcast app. Just search for Hip Hop Can Save America. And the newsletter, which I have linked down here at the bottom as well. Dr. Toby Jenkins visited us. Long overdue. I have her book here somewhere. It's called The Hip Hop Mindset. And it's brilliant. She's a professor, but she's a, again, hip hop head. We don't talk to fakes or phonies here. And the Hip Hop Mindset's a great book. And it talks, again, it gives you an understanding of what the hip hop mindset is. I told her, I'm so jealous. I'm a writer and I've done a lot of articles and editorials and such. And I've been writing books or starting to write books. And I actually have a book coming out in 2025. I'll give you all the details when it's done. Like it's a deal, it's a contract. It's not like I'm like, hopefully they'll do it. No, it's happening. I just don't know the dates and the times yet. It's in process. My guess is spring of 2025. I'll give you more about it as soon as I know. But I was jealous because Toby Jenkins wrote, like, to me, the perfect book about what we're trying to get across to folks, in that, with all the beauty of hip hop, the elements and artistic value and all the great things that come out of that, and how those things can be used in this is the point, in whatever you do. I don't care if you don't even deal with you just have a business, you sell widgets. Like, do you understand the power of a hip hop mindset when it comes to advertising and marketing? Like, there's a whole book called The Tanning of America that goes into how the reason why you see like hip hop in commercials on TV and is because this is a thing. And if you don't know how to harness that, and I'm not saying like use it for your own benefit, like capitalism, boo, but also like it's a way to bring more people into the workforce. There's so many companies out here, but like, we're trying to be diverse and we just don't know how. And then they spend millions of dollars on consultants and DEI. And I think that's all important. And obviously those things, those movements are dying and companies aren't paying for that anymore. But I'd sure like to see a lot more of those folks be hip hop folks, because yes, it's multicultural, and yes, it's, having an understanding of different demographics. But that hip hop mindset that she talks about, it says success strategies for educators and other professionals. And she said, the only reason why I said educators, and yes, for educators too, was because it's an academic press but it's really for anybody. And it's for those folks who, they just want to expand their thinking. If I want to, I have a book here somewhere. It's like a philosophy book by some philosopher. And it's a way of looking at the world through this philosophical lens. It's not my way of life. I don't do that. I'm not into that. I'm not into philosophy, and I didn't go to school for that. I don't know that stuff. But I found a book in philosophy that kind of spoke to me a little bit about how, I might want to look at the world and investigate, interrogate myself in the grand scheme of whatever. Clearly, I didn't read the book very well, but you know what I'm talking about. So it makes no sense to me why someone who isn't intellectually curious or capitalistically curious or educatively curious or philosophically curious wouldn't be looking at one of the world's largest and most influential social movements of all time, hip hop. And saying, what is it about this thing that connects so many people, that influences so many things? What am I missing? What am I missing out on? Oh, you're missing out on so much brilliance and ingenuity and joy and happiness. So shouts to, again, Dr. Toby Jenkins, who wrote a whole book about what this idea is of what a hip hop mindset means, what it means to look at the world through a hip hop mindset, and how that can be applied to solving problems, amplifying what it is you're trying to do. Doesn't matter what you do. One of my favorite interviews this year, for many reasons. Number one, it's a huge topic. and it deals with the use of rap lyrics in court cases. Now, this came to a little bit of a spotlight this year because of the Young Thug trial here in Atlanta, Georgia, which was a RICO racketeering trial. Big trial, big news. Lasted a year. It's wild. Plea deals eventually, and Young Thug essentially got off, although, time served, whatever. But a wild, I mean, if you're a fan of like, court TV type stuff, like it was all over the place. And so when we talk about lyrics being used in court of law, it's been done in the past with NWA and famously with 2 Live Crew, obscenity trials back in 1990, I think, which actually set a really good freedom of speech precedent that many musicians and artists and artisans and I guess activists and provocateurs and have rested on since then, that obscenity in music is basically protected speech. So we've seen a confluence of rap lyrics and court proceedings in the past. What's happening in recent years has been a little bit more insidious because everyone makes rap songs now, even like as a hobbyist, and with platforms like YouTube or SoundCloud, you might post your songs on SoundCloud or YouTube, and then you might get into some legal trouble, unrelated, of course, to whatever you might have written or performed or recorded or posted. And you get into trouble, and the law is looking deep into your history and finding rap lyrics that you might have written or posted or performed or recorded. And they're tying the two things together. And often, as those who write about this, another good book, this is pretty much the seminal book on this topic, Rap on Trial, Race, Lyrics, and Guilt in America. This book details a lot of the instances where this happened, and it often happens sloppily. There's a cultural dissonance. There's a lot of people who don't make the connections, don't understand the lingo. Like if I was to be like, yo, I went in the club and, got it popping, and I recorded that, and then I happened to be in a club where there was a shootout and I was, maybe affiliated or close to or whatever, they would use those lyrics against me, not understanding that when I say the club is popping, it means it's, people are dancing, having a good time. But you're saying what he means is popping shots, like the pop, pop, pop of a gun. Like that's how they're using lyrics against, this is a very basic analogy or example, but that's the kind of thing they're doing. They're taking songs that someone wrote and songs that someone wrote, the same person, but two different songs, and they're bringing the lyrics together and then presenting them to the jury as if it was like one cohesive statement. There are a number of famous cases that deal with this. This documentary that was highlighted, I believe it was on Paramount, and it was called As We Speak, Rap Music on Trial, delved into this. Again, there's books on it. This was a documentary directed by J.M. Harper and starring Kemba. And I've talked tonight, if you're just tuning in, you missed this. I talked tonight about the years that I spent covering the independent music scene in New York City when nobody else was. People dabbled in it, but I don't care who you were. Even if you were a blogger in New York, a rap blogger or whatever, you spent a lot of time bigging up New York. You were also writing about the other stuff. Nobody in all of existence, and prove me wrong, no one's proved me wrong yet, was as dedicated to covering New York area hip-hop music and culture than me. Me, just this guy you're seeing now. And I take pride in that because I never gave up on New York, and as well we shouldn't. But others did because they have to chase the money. I don't have to chase the money. All I need is people to donate to the Patreon, patreon.com/Manny Faces. If y'all support this, then we can keep this going. I don't have to ever get someone tell me what I can cover and who I can cover. And when I did that, I covered Kemba. And Kemba at the time was known as YC the Cynic, and he was like 19 years old. And he was dope, super dope rapper, kid, but practically a kid. To me, I'm older, so I can say that. So good. And they had a great mixtape. And it was sort of around the time, like, I don't know if it was around the same time, but if you like Joey Badass, like it kind of had that like old soul kind of like, I come from a old school cloth, but I'm kicking you some in a new way kind of deal. And I started seeing him around the scene. I started kicking it with him, and I interviewed him, and he changed his name to Kemba. He was so talented. It still is. I mean, he's a great guy. And, I moved from New York a few years back. I moved to Newark, New Jersey for 5 years. Shouts to Brick City. Then I moved to Atlanta. I did the thing that New Yorkers do. I moved to Atlanta. But this was pandemic. Pandemic kind of killed the vibe. So blame pandemic. I would have stayed there forever. And then a few years later, I get word that Rap on Trial, as we speak, Rap Music on Trial, this documentary is coming out, and it's starring my man Kemba. And it was such a beautiful like moment, because I always, I started a column in Birthplace Magazine called 5 Reasons Why New York Hip Hop Doesn't Suck. And I would do this like periodically and just give you 5 things that I would like come across. And, if you're from New York, end of the week, Freestyle Mondays, legendary ciphers, people like Homeboy Sandman, and Kemba and Rebel Diaz, the Rebel Diaz Arts Collective, and like the real like nitty gritty of New York City hip hop that you wouldn't know if you really weren't like in the streets and really paying attention. And on the very first one, YC the Cynic, as he was known at the time, I mentioned Kemba. And I was like, man, this guy's gonna do great things. And so like 12 years later, here he is doing this fascinating documentary. So yeah. So I see y'all talking in the chat. I'm just keeping it going. Randy, what up, Randy? Randy Swigum in the place. Stuff like this that makes this podcast matter to me. How would I know about this stuff without you, Manny? I can't keep up, but you take the lead. Thanks. Hey, it's no problem. I'm a big Knicks fan, right? And I watch the games and I'm into it. But after the game, I tune into Knicks Fan TV. So my guys, shouts to CP the franchise on YouTube, and they break down the game and all the things. And like, I'm a fan. I'm a casual fan. But these guys follow the stats. They pay attention. They interview so we all need our folks to help, bridge these gaps. So I love it. I know. Listen, y'all gotta go. It's late. I know I'm going a little late. Well, not really going a little late. I usually go to 10:30. So cut it out. But I understand. And you're like an hour behind, Bob. You're like 2 hours behind. So I know y'all gotta go. But all right. So catch the rest on the replay. Shouts to the replay folk tuned in and turned up. Definitely check this interview, Rap Music on Trial with Kemba and J.M. Harper, but also check the documentary. It was on Paramount. I won't waste time going to check it out. It's called As We Speak, Rap Music on Trial, and you want to check that out. It's very important. Following that, and again, what we're doing is we're just showing you a recap of the folks I talked to. I talk to so many dope people, man. If you're not incorporating hip hop in your life, you're not doing it right. And just let's talk about it. 2025 is the year of the consultations, man. Let's get this consult money. I'll come into your spot and we'll talk. I'll bring people with me. I'll bring a task force. There's people out here. Shouts to Chosen Hip Hop might not be tuned in right now. Might not be, but like we're gonna come in as a task force. It's not just me. Everyone can eat off this, but it's important because we all have our own perspectives and our own understandings. I wanted to really interrogate Mr. Jamal Bowman, who at the time, and still, I think he's gone now. Well, he's about to be gone because he was primaried out, but was a House of Congress representative from New York. And Jamal Bowman, Representative Bowman, crafted a hip-hop task force. I mentioned the word task force. Look at this. What a segue. In Congress, and wanted to start a congressional, committee, task force. I don't know. I guess that's an official term, task force, to look at how hip hop music and culture can be used in ways that can, benefit constituents. Now, of course, Representative Bowman is a couple of years behind because that's what Hip Hop Could Save America is essentially based on. I've been doing this show since 19. So cool, but cool. And I like Representative Bowman on the progressive side of things. Interviewed him, brought him on the show. We talked, we kicked it. And I asked him what this looks like. What does a hip hop task force in Congress look like? I was in the halls of Congress earlier that year. It's actually where we saw each other for the first time. I had a Hip Hop Could Save America t-shirt on. He had an aide that asked me about it and said, hey, that sounds like something I'd like to know about. And we arranged an interview. The reason why I was there is because the House of Representatives introduced a resolution celebrating the 50th year of hip hop back in 2023. And this resolution was saying, all the, herein because whereas hip hop has, been a cultural and social force since August 11th, 1973, when in the, rec room, in the apartment, Kool Herc and Cindy Campbell threw a back to school jam and, blah, 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 blah. And in the years later, producers such as blah, 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 and artists such as blah. This was an actual document that now resides in the historical record, in the congressional record. It was a resolution that was entered into Congress. I got involved in it because they reached out to me from, the work that I do and said, hey, we'd love your 2 cents about what we're going to put into the record in Congress. I'm going to talk about this. I never really told this story in depth, and tonight's not the night because we want to run through this, but I helped correct a couple of things that were incorrect. And I gave some contributions that I think everyone listening would be really happy about, right? I think universally, when they were like, that hip hop has also made contributions to the world of, fashion and, all these other like kind of ancillary areas that hip hop has influenced, film and TV and advertising. I suggested and they accepted and now resides in this wording that hip hop has also made strides in education and healthcare. And so those were areas that whoever was writing this and, whatever coalition was coming together, they hadn't thought of. They hadn't thought of, hip hop's great contributions to education and great contributions to healthcare. And I added those words and now they exist. So again, humble brag, but we're doing this work. So so I interviewed Jamal Bowman about what it means and a little bit about his history. He was a school principal and really an interesting talk with someone who's, as we know, politics is a longer discussion. He's a Democrat. We're talking about mainstream parties. He's a progressive, but not like an independent progressive, not like a Cornel West progressive. So, and I have a lot of interest and thoughts about how hip hop can be integrated into politics the right way. It was a good talk. It was an interesting talk to lay that foundation. So shouts to Jamal Bowman. He has been primaried out. He will not return to Congress as they're now switching over. Primaried out on like a really kind of insidious campaign to get him out, to get progressives out of the House of Representatives. And I'm curious about touching base with him and finding out like what's next. And does he still want to pursue hip hop, the political angle? Because I have a lot of thoughts, and as you could tell from the people that I've already talked about talking to, we got some people that do this and are intrigued or connected with these ideas. So great conversation, though, especially if you're interested in the coming together of hip hop and politics, something that's going to be very important and very prominent with me and the work that I do in 2025. Pay attention. Please sign up for I keep going back and forth, but sign up for the newsletter if you're not signed up. mannyfaces.substack.com. We're going to talk about this stuff. Randy, comment on that resolution. Great, but ironic. The power of establishment language directed toward the most subversive cultural art movement of our time. But cool. It was a very, very ironic. It was a very dichotomy. It was a lot. And let's just say that I'm very happy that I had my 2 cents put in there. There was a couple of other things in there that I told you what I put in there, but one day I'll go into what I took out. So there. And I'm sure they would have found out, someone else would have pointed out that salt and pepper, pepper's not spelled with 2 P's like Peppa Pig. I'm sure someone besides me would have found that, but I also found that. Anyway, I'm sure. So shouts to Jamila Sam, shouts to Social and Emotional Learning Through Hip Hop. This is a organization that works with, working with young people, but not in school, but sort of in connection with school. So it's a program that you can, if you're an educator and you want to start learning about these things, this is an organization, Hip Hop for, oh God, what's the, come on. We do it for the culture. We do it for the culture. We do it for the culture, Jamila Sam's organization, which introduces the idea of social and emotional learning through hip hop. And again, this gets into the social work and the mental health therapy and the things that hip hop could do that traditional, whether you want to call it Eurocentric or just outdated or just unimaginative or just non-innovative ways of connecting with young people aren't doing. Like, pandemic messed up so many young people heads and grown folk heads that we need new methods. Like, it changed everything. So why wouldn't you think, if you're a person, again, charged with the care of young people, whether you're in social work or not, whether you're a principal in a school, whether you're a parent that can go to the Board of Education and say, I heard of a program that helps young people, social and emotional intelligence, social and emotional learning through hip hop. And our kids are not doing well with social and emotional learning. So tell me, Board of Education, have you contacted We Do It for the Culture? Have you talked to them and have you evaluated their programming and decided whether it could be used in our school? That's what I want you to do if you're a parent. That's what we're talking about. I don't care if you don't like Drake or Sexy Red or Kendrick Lamar or Lord Jamar or Fat Joe. I don't give a goddamn. I do kind of care about those conversations from a sociological perspective, but I don't give a damn. I'm 50 years old. And if they make music for the kids and the kids are twerking, I don't care. I do care. But that's not my main concern. My main concern now as a grown-ass man is how can the music and culture I love help my children, help my friends' children, help my community, help communities that are underserved and underprivileged and under-resourced and have been underloved. That's my goal. If I'm spending all my time sitting on YouTube or in the comment section or on Facebook bitching about all this other stuff, I'm doing my own culture a disservice. So we can do some of that, and we should. We should have our 2 cents. We should be allowed to do that. We could talk about Beyonce Bowl. We could talk about all this. And what can hip-hop do for us? Not what can hip-hop do. Ask not what hip-hop can do for you, but what you can do for hip-hop. You know, John F. Kennedy said that once. That was it. No, he actually did. He said, ask not what hip-hop can do for you. Ask what you can do for hip-hop. Like, he said that. You don't remember? I got to find it. But he actually said that. Maybe I'm paraphrasing. But the point is, it's time for you as a grown-up to say, what can I do for hip-hop? And if hip-hop got these ways that Jamila Sams is talking about, and you'll love her interview, it's a great interview. Check it out. I'm not making this up. I got the receipts. She has the receipts. They have the receipts. It helps our children. Why are we not implementing this everywhere? Everywhere. Best believe when I go to my school district and I go to my Board of Education meetings, I'm asking them this. So can you do the same thing? Let's go. All right, look. Great interview. Let's keep it moving. My man, Mello. I'm only in March. We're not going to get through this night. I've got to start skipping. My man, Mello, Divine, who's super dope. I've known him for a long time. His brother was incarcerated. He's a hip hop artist, was incarcerated for a bunch of years, federal charges, the whole nine. Got out of jail, came home, and started working started looking for ways to help, folks who were coming out of jail who have trouble assimilating back with society. Society does a really bad job of letting people come back into society. I did a whole podcast on my Newsbeat podcast about when you're exonerated of a crime. You spend 20, 30 years in jail on some trumped up charges. DNA now exists and people get let out of jail because it wasn't you to begin with. How many times we see this story on TV? There's a whole thing about coming home and not getting compensated even though you were wrongly convicted, and the fight for that. Shout out to the Innocence Project, our friends who I've worked with, my man Silent Night, who's worked with the Innocence Project, and people who come out of jail and don't get any money. You got to sue the city or you got to sue the state. You just came home. You don't even know how a cell phone works, bro. I mean, you do because they smuggle cell phones. That's not the point. The point is you don't know how the world works. And you got to find a lawyer. You ain't got no money. You got to find a lawyer. Your family, you're 30 years, bro. Like some people come home. Anyway, long story short, Divine has comes out of prison, finds his way into the financial tech sector, the fintech sector, and starts working on building a platform that helps formerly incarcerated or, low income or marginalized folk get their finances in order. It's a good program. It's a good platform. He's gone on to now merge with a mortgage, mortgage company that's also trying to give people a better chance at getting a mortgage, sort of based on, merit, and not only like. Can you imagine coming out of and my brother, shouts to the late great Coleman, my brother, who was in jail for many, many years, passed away a year out of getting out of jail, was in jail for like 6-7 years. and then passed away like a year, trying to get his life together, working so hard, trying to get back, trying to get right. And wasn't able to like really get ahead of the game because when you come back, you don't have any resources. Your family's like iffy and you're in and out, and you don't like, it doesn't, the relationships aren't there anymore. And, you don't have a foundation. You can't get certain jobs because you got to mark off for you a felon. You know that you can't get certain things and you have no credit score. Now, Coleman was in jail for 6-7 years and did some things that, we shouldn't be doing. But Coleman was a good guy. Anyone who knows him, my brother from another mother, like I went to bat for him 1,000 times. I'd still be going to bat. I know he's a good guy. And he got out and he worked his ass off from day one out the pen to the day he, died. Worked. I would have no question giving him a loan. I know him. And I know that he would pay it back on time. Every time he'd work, he's so happy to be out. He paid his debt. He did his thing. And to know that there are people out in this world that come out and don't have someone like me to like lean on. I didn't even do enough. I held him down when he was in. Not everyone has that. So what I loved about Divine's story is that it actually touched me personally, and is a good guy. And he's trying to find that way that we can help folks, who come out, get their lives intact financially faster and better, because again, the powers that be don't care and they're not really trying. So anyway, good work. I'm going to rattle through a few of these. My man Y, Yogi Guy, works through, does personal training and personal one-on-ones with artists to try to like help them find their mission, help them find their way in life. He's been doing such good work out in New York City. And he's done work with, again, sort of educational areas, working with youth organizations. It's that nonprofit, artistic, teaching artist, uplifting, like it's in that zone, which is really super dope. His organization, Creative Expressions, check him out. I did a couple of editorials this year. I won't play them, but my editorials are super dope. And you need to check out the Words I Manifest on the YouTube. I be spitting some facts. My man Prism might have been. I saw him earlier. Chosen Hip Hop in the building. My man PR Ism. Chosen Hip Hop is a good. And by the way, just mad love for coming through here. We have similar ideas and similar missions, but it's never like I'm not coming out and hanging out with him. I'm not going to spread his love. And no, we spread each other's love, and it's each one teach one, and through the affiliations we have power. Channeling hip hop's true culture for peace and empowerment. And I loved talking to Prism because like that's where I was coming from. Like I'm coming from this thing of ours can do so much good in the world, but it takes a lot of effort to break through the noise. So the more the merrier. And his organization been around for a long time. They do great work, and you should definitely check out Chosen Hip Hop. He often puts in the chat like their slogan, like it's a very uplifting. So you can do it right now. I forget the exact word. I don't want to get it wrong, but it's a very uplifting. Like you could be a better person. It's making the best you out of you, kind of deal. And I love it because it's not like hokey dokey, like The Secret. You know what I mean? Like just wish it into existence. No, it's taking the elements, the core, beautiful teachings of hip hop music and culture. It's like a religion, but I don't like to call it a religion. I don't even like to think about it as a religion, but there's tenets. There's tenets, not tenants. People renting space. There's tenets in hip hop that really like if you look at religions, like all the religions have the same like basic thing. Like I don't care what religion you are. It's like be a decent person. Don't ish on everybody. You'll either get some kind of heavenly afterlife reward, or you'll do all the things. Good things will come to you. Good karma. Pay your tithes and you'll be rewarded tenfold, I think it is. And sure, all those things. It all basically says the same things, like be decent people, and we could take all the religions and whittle it down to like these 5 tenets that all of them kind of agree on, right? And that's great. And I love religion for that. It gives me an idea of like how to live my life and be a good person, right? If nothing else, that's what religion tries to remind you, to just like be a halfway. Don't be an asshole, right? That's religion. That's all the gods are like, yeah, right, yeah, right. Like, just don't be an asshole, right? Just don't, yeah. And so okay. And hip hop has tenets like that. You don't have to follow hip hop as a religion. Shouts to Temple of Hip Hop and sort of the religious undertones of some of these organizations. You don't have to follow it like a religion. You don't have to look at it as if it's anything more than just guidance, like a set of guidelines that have been evolving and changing over time, but kind of come back to the core. Like, we talk about hip hop being, peace, unity, love, and having fun. And, again, problematic over time, the Africa Bambaataa, original Zulu Nation, universal Zulu Nation situation. But those aren't bad tenets. And we can separate them from problematic figures, just like we can sometimes listen to music that was produced by problematic figures. You know what I mean? Like I may not play a song with Diddy on it, but I can't not play the entire Bad Boy catalog. I mean, if I do a 90s party, I might as well go home. Like, what am I do? So all that to say that there are tenets in hip hop. Whether it's a hip hop mindset, or whether it's hip hop pillars, or these ideas. And I think Chosen Hip Hop does a good job of explaining how we can, again, authentically use them to our advantage. So great interview. Check them out. Questlove. This was my editorial about Questlove. When Questlove got mad that there was a beef between Drake and Kendrick and made this statement about hip hop being truly dead. Meanwhile, and I called him out for it, a lot of people did, but I spoke about this and I said, not only are you wrong, in my opinion, I guess, but that kind of statement is so detrimental. I just spent an hour and a half, and I'll probably go for like 10, 15 more minutes. I know everyone got to go to bed. An hour and a half talking about hip hop and how alive it is, with innovation and inventiveness and creativity in so many aspects of society that have nothing to do with music. I'm mad. I just realized I wasn't recording. I mean, I record locally so I could like take clips and stuff. This would have been a good clip. I recognize. I'm like, damn, I didn't record this. I spent an hour and a half talking about all the great ways that hip hop is helping uplift humanity in so many ways that have nothing to do with music or beef or Drake or Kendrick or whatever. And for Questlove, someone with as loud a voice, you know, that he has, someone who's as well connected to hip hop, but also as well respected outside of hip hop. Outsiders look at Kendrick, at Questlove, and listen to what he has to say. And so when he says this beef could end up with violence, and this isn't the way it should be, hip hop is truly dead. These were his words. Hip hop is truly dead. In May of this year. And I said, that's so damaging because, again, I just talked for an hour and a half about people I talked to before May. I can't even get through the year and tell you all the people I talked to that have done amazing things in hip hop culture. And for you to say hip hop is truly dead not only dismisses all of this work, all of these people, everyone doing this work, not only by saying hip hop is truly dead, not only dismisses all of these people genuinely and authentically saving lives and helping improve lives and livelihoods and communities through hip hop. You're dismissing all of that. You're not even, because people outside of the culture don't know that there's a difference between hip hop music and hip hop culture, hip hop commerce and hip hop culture, right? The rap music industrial complex and like rap music culture. They don't know that there's a difference. And so when you say hip hop is truly dead, it's everything. It's encompassing, and you should know better. And it's so detrimental. Meanwhile, many folks would say, as we talked about last week on the show, that 2024 was actually one of the best years in hip hop in a long time. Musically, artistically, creatively, and as I talk about, culturally. So it was a great day. I had a 24-minute diatribe on why Questlove was wrong, and I suggest you do it. Much love to Dr. Gian Jones. She has a superhero name, Gian Jones, like Marvel, like Jennifer Jones. Was it Jennifer? Was it? You know what I'm talking about. But all like Peter Parker and, all the Marvel superhero names. And she is a superhero. And it's amazing to me, the idea that hip hop and occupational therapy, occupational science have a connection. And again, it doesn't matter what lane you rock with in the world, hip hop can help make your lane better and the people who are involved in your lane better. And occupational therapy, as she'll explain to you, is a great conversation. Please go check it out. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know what occupational therapy, I know what physical therapy is. I know you get hurt in an accident, you get physical therapy. And I'm like, okay, you get physical therapy and you go back to life and you're chilling. She says, yeah, but then the occupational therapist comes in. I said, oh, what, do you help me get back to do my job? Like, do you help me edit podcasts? Yeah, kinda. In that physical therapy gets your body right. Occupational therapy helps get your spirit right, like your mind right, and getting back to the game. You could be horribly injured in an accident, and physical therapy helps you walk again, but you're not walking like you were. You're not pirouetting and dunking the basketball or jogging with your dogs or playing frisbee with your kid. Like, you're not doing the same things you were doing before. And that's going to make you feel some type of way. You're mobile again, but you're not like you were. Occupational therapy helps with that. It's a bit of psychology and it's a bit of physical stuff. And sometimes it is actually working with your hands. I broke my elbow or whatever, but I can't DJ anymore. Like, I can write, I can drive a car, but I can't DJ anymore. And that was what, maybe I made a living that way, or what gave me life, or what, feels like church. And so occupational therapists help you kind of get back to, I think she said physical therapists like make your body strong, and occupational therapists like help your will, Anyway, it's a beautiful conversation. I love Dr. Jones to death. And I think that is a brilliant conversation that should be had, should be listened to by anybody. Again, especially if you're trying to incorporate hip hop into your way of life or your way of living or your business or your whatever, your line of work. That's a connection that you wouldn't normally think exists, but of course it does. And of course it's beneficial. Technology is a big one. I've talked to my good friends at Breakbeat Code about the way that they do an afternoon workshop for young kids, 12 to 18 years old. And in 4 hours, kids who have never touched a computer, have ever before in their lives, can now do programming, basics of programming in Python. Breakbeat Code, it's a great program. I didn't talk to them this year, but you go back in the archives. In 4 hours, kids that have never even known that computer programming was a thing, have now understood the basics of computer programming. Why? Because they learned it by making beats. Because there's a bunch of musics on the side, and you got to pull from the repository of loops and drum loops and samples and put them on top of each other and layer them like a producer does and make these dope beats. But you can't drag and drop. No, you gotta program it. You gotta call it with programming language. And in 4 hours, these kids go to 0 to 100 in terms of computer programming out of the gate. Hip hop and technology. I do an entire keynote talk about it. I've consulted with technology companies about how you can use hip hop in an authentic way. I say use, but not abuse. In an authentic way. Connect with communities. Bring in innovators from communities that are traditionally underserved in the tech community. Come on, man. Only like 6%, 7% of the entire tech industry are Black or Hispanic. Maybe even the numbers are lower. Like, but I'll give you an hour-long keynote and blow your mind about all the ways that hip-hop folk have innovated technologically, have innovated technology through the years. So why aren't they working for you? Why aren't you bringing them into the mix? It doesn't make any sense. Don't you want to succeed? Don't you want to bring new innovation? Don't you want to help those communities strive? It doesn't make any sense. My man Darrell Booker, though, up at Microsoft, does a really good job of keeping his hip-hop sensibilities, working with communities, working with nonprofits. He's the corporate affairs specialist at Microsoft, a big dog in the nonprofit sector. Microsoft has a whole foundation and a whole nonprofit sector. And again, we don't always love corporations and what they do to hip-hop. We don't always love what, the capitalist system does with hip-hop, but they exist. And we want to make sure that, folks are doing the best they can with what they're given in these corporate structures. We can certainly use the corporate resources. We can certainly use corporations like Microsoft to go into communities that are underserved, under-resourced, and often underloved, and provide resources that those community members might not have had access to. So when they do that, we want to, big them up. And so Darrell Booker came on and talked about their work. One of the things they also did was did some work with AI and the what's now called the Hip-Hop Museum, formerly known as the Universal Hip-Hop Museum, being built in New York City. And they had a nice interaction. They developed some software for them that was really cool and innovative and interesting to talk to. We didn't get into a deep talk about AI and the entire what that means for the music business as a whole. It is a topic we're going to be covering in 2025 with some really smart people about that. I want to keep it moving because we're getting late, and I just want to, again, this is just a recap of the amazing people I talked to in 2024, and hopefully we keep it going in 2025. One way that you can help me make that happen is if you donate to the patreon.com/Manny Faces right down here. It's very important. Shouts to all the people in the room. I've seen AJ Woodson has helped the cause. Andrew Wang, of course, Dr. Raphael Travis, Randy Swigum. Folks have helped this cause. And probably by mid next year, if all goes according to plan, we'll have some ways to fund this, really. But it's got to be grassroots for now, y'all. I used to donate to public radio like NPR and stuff like that. I was like, I felt grown up. I was like, I'm going to donate to my WNYC public radio, like a real person. Yeah. The reason why these things exist, and especially in the next few years when funding may be cut, it's going to be hard for folks like me and ecosystems that we're trying to build here to get any kind of funding, any kind of grants or anything like that. They don't want to hear people talking about hip hop that can uplift people. They want to talk about hip hop that murders people. They want to talk about hip hop that that denigrates people and does nothing politically or culturally or socially. They don't want that. Who's gonna help me do this? So for now, until we figure that out, I could use y'all help. I could use y'all help. I'm giving you a whole year's worth of what I did based on the little amounts that y'all, give, and it all matters. It all helps. Dr. Todd Boyd spoke with us, wrote a great book called How Hip Hop Made the World. Many chapters about decades, like what was happening in America and how did hip hop tie into that. So a lot of tie-ins with hip hop and politics, hip hop and social issues. It was a good book. It's a beautiful book. It's here. It's giant. It's like it's beautifully made. It's like a coffee table book almost. And it's a great look back at history of hip hop. If my dad was still around, my dad was a sociologist, college professor, and he didn't know about hip hop a lot. He's an older dude, and just wasn't into that kind of cultural connection. But we talked a lot, and I started telling him what I was getting into before he passed. And sociologically, he was very interested because obviously hip hop is extremely interesting sociologically and anthropologically. And kind of what I do is, kind of a poor man's anthropology. Like I look at what's happening in the society and the culture and the people and da-da-da. And so we had talks about that. This would be a book I would give him because I would say, hey, look, Dad, I know you don't know, but in the 1970s, when you were studying immigration patterns into Little Italy and, he was very sociology of minorities and urban studies. So minorities of all kinds, definitely studied had some, studies that looked at, Black folk. And I remember marriage rates, but also immigration, Italians and Koreans. Like that was his thing, like minority groups, how they influence and how they, move through society, and particularly in cities. So New York was, obviously a purview of his. Anyway, I would have said, this is what I want you to look at, because you can now look at each decade from 70, maybe even starting 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and you can see how hip hop wasn't just this fad, wasn't just this, this like subgenre of music, that it was a full-fledged cultural ecosystem. And that, you can learn a lot about, as Dr. Boyd said, about America through hip hop. And even we talked about it tonight, like with all the, the law, like the way that the criminal justice system interacts with hip hop. And of course, NPR did a good podcast series about that, Louder Than a Bomb, where they investigated the connections between hip hop and the criminal justice system in America. And I don't always like to harp on those connections, but hip hop has been both reporting on, intertwined with, and can help alleviate the criminal justice inequities in America. Fair? Reporting on since day one, calling it out, intertwined with in the ways that we talk about today with, rap lyrics being used in court and all the stuff that Louder Than a Bomb went into, but also can help alleviate. And perhaps, I'm optimistic. I say hip hop can save America. One of the things that needs to be saved from are these iniquities and inequalities and injustices. Can hip hop eradicate? Can definitely alleviate them. We're talking about this all night. Can it alleviate them? So, yeah, something that we talked about a little bit with Todd Boyd. The Hip-Hop Ed Movement, our good friends at the Hip-Hop Ed Movement are the curators of the Hip-Hop in Education connection. Hip-Hop Ed, they did for a long time a weekly Twitter space. They will be looking for a new platform. Hey, if you're on Discord, I'm on Discord, we're on Discord, and I'm hoping that Hip-Hop Ed comes and joins us there. We have a Discord server. I won't put it in here right now. Make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter. If you're subscribed to the newsletter, you'll get info on that. Couple more editorials. My good friends, Dr. Lauren Kelly and Dr. Darren Graves, wrote a incredible textbook about hip hop pedagogy. And again, this is for all the teachers out there. A lot of hip hop education stuff. My man Raphael Travis, Dr. Travis, a supporter of the show, had a STEM Beats workshop day at his university in Texas, and we talked about that. Again, the connection, how hip hop can help improve young people, especially, but anybody really. Their connection to technology, their understanding of technology, and how to get into technology fields. He runs a great workshop there. We talked about breaking the Olympics. It's too much to get into tonight, but let's just say I wrote this piece and spoke this piece that now that breaking the Olympics is over, there's a lot of important things that came out of that that we need to remember and need to talk about. That wasn't about that thing that happened in the Olympics. There's a lot more. And if all we do, and again, this is armchair hip hop commentators out in the world. And look, you might be one of them. It's okay, because we don't have these research, we don't have these forums to talk about this stuff in an intellectual manner. Sometimes you just got to be emotive and get it out and argue with people and say, listen, this looked like a travesty. This is embarrassing. It's my culture. You embarrass us, blah, blah, blah. But I promise you, if you care about hip hop culture, if you care about breaking, if you care about, the worldwide, adoption of hip hop culture, if you care about commercial and capitalistic uses of hip hop, there's a lot of nuance to discuss about breaking the Olympics that was tragic and horrible and needs to be corrected, but also a lot of beauty and joy came out of that was overlooked and overshadowed by some of the negativity. And when we talk on this show about hip hop, we don't just talk about music and gossip and whatever. We talk about all the elements. We listen to the people who are involved in those elements. We get their perspectives. We share them. We spread them. We talk about them in a smart way. My man, DJ Ray Dawn, again, all the elements. Got to talk about turntablism. Got to talk about DJing. And I've done that over the course of the years. Ray Dawn, this is a really interesting conversation because he developed a way of transcribing DJ patterns and scratches and movements and the way that you would notate music. Like music has notes. Ray Dawn help develop a system that did that for DJing. It's really important because when we talk about archiving and remembering things and putting things in historical, context, really interesting to see DJ patterns being transcribed as visual cues. It's just a fascinating topic to me. Blew me away. My man, Jose Moore, all of the above Hip Hop Academy. Again, we switched back to the nonprofit scene. What does that look like in a community? First of all, there's probably a hip hop based nonprofit that's community based and youth empowering in your area. So if you say, I don't do hip hop, I don't like hip hop, I'm not, how do I help? What can I do? What you said before, President Kennedy was like, ask not what hip hop can do for you, but what you can do for hip hop. You have to do something, grown people. What can you do? You can go to your Board of Education, like I talked about. You could contribute your monetary dollars to patreon.com/Manny Faces. God, please. $5. Come on. Like, it's like you could buy $5 a month, bro. Like, you buy Starbucks. Like, come on, help me out. It all adds up. And I got like 15, 20 people doing it. You're not going to be alone. But one of the things you can do is you can look for who's doing something like this in your neighborhood and volunteer your time. Or volunteers, or donate some money, or volunteer some resources, or, say, oh, you work with young people. I happen to do this, or whatever. Like, there's connections you can make. So Jose Moore, his academy is called, his nonprofit is called All the Above. They're in Lansing, Michigan. They just, after like 10 years, got a space, like a physical space. And that happened through donations. So I'm trying to tell you, if you don't want to donate to me now, but you'd rather donate in a tax deductible way and give big money, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Like, if you were like, Manny, I would give you a lot of money, man. Like, I donate to charities every year, but, Patreon, I don't know. Maybe if you were a nonprofit, then I could work with you. Or, hey, man, I work in nonprofit funding. I know a grant writer. I can help you out, Manny. If just you were a nonprofit, wink, 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 then hit me up. And or stay tuned, because that can be arranged. Had a great story. We're almost done. Had a great story about Dat Piff, the Hip Hop Mixtape Archive. There used to be a big site called Dat Piff. It was we talked about mixtapes earlier being on physical cassettes, but there was a time when everything was digital, and Dat Piff was the place that you would upload your mixtape. If you were a mixtape DJ, famous ones or bedroom producers, you would upload your mixtape to Dat Piff, and hundreds of thousands of mix CDs were there. And then Dat Piff went away. And the fate of those mixtapes were, unclear. And I went into this in other episodes, maybe that episode, so I don't want to go to it too much tonight because we got to move on. But you might say, who cares? If, 200,000 no-name DJs with their mixtapes disappeared. And that's crazy. That's crazy talk. It's nasty work to be talking that way. Because a mixtape is a person's curation, a moment in time, a snapshot of what an individual who has generally speaking, a good understanding of the musical and cultural landscape decided to put songs in a certain order, a certain theme, certain artists at a certain time, and capture not just an album like that an artist decides. These are what you're going to hear. I mean, it's a little bit more democratic to me, a mixtape DJ. I'll talk for hours about how great a mixtape DJ and how great mixtape DJs have been to hip hop culture and how unsung they are. We'll talk about that. Again, 2025, I want to have these kind of topical discussions, maybe with a few people, like a panel. We can do that on these shows. Not just me all the time. That'd be cool, right? Remember that guy said, too much Manny Faces. I'm like, all right, but who are you? And what are you doing? Guarantee you, I don't know who he is. And probably not doing anything. So anyway, Manny Faces, there's enough Manny Faces. But the point is that it's important. And so Dat Piff went away. They gave all of their data, their files, to the Internet Archive, which is a nonprofit organization that archives a lot of digital materials from different places and different things. And then one day it went away. It just disappeared. The entire collection that was transferred from Dat Piff to the Internet Archive. I didn't even look to see if it's back, because I don't think it's back. And so you have this whole chunk of art / culture / history that's vanished. And so again, taking it back to one of the earlier topics tonight, the importance of hip hop archiving. And if you're in that world, if you're an archivist, if you're a sound archivist, if you're a cultural archivist, we talk to so many people. Shouts to Ben Ortiz, who's the assistant curator at the Cornell Hip Hop Collection. Shouts to Harvard, who has a hip hop collection. Shouts to William and Mary. Shouts to Red Summer at the National Hip Hop Archive. Shouts to Martha Diaz, who's done archiving work. Shouts to my homie Summer McCoy once again. There's so many people doing this archival work. It has to be supported. It has to be talked about. And so, I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this. It's important. So that was an interesting story. My man, James Norris, Dr. J, the other Dr. J, as he says, talks about hip hop as healing. Again, this is a mental health therapy focused episode. He has an initiative called Rhythms of Healing. And what I loved about this is we had Dr. Ian Levy on this. We've had JC Hall on this show. We've had, Jamila Sams talking from a mental health perspective. We've had Dr. Raphael Travis. We've had so many people that talk about working with young people, using hip hop as a way to connect, finding common ground, extracting from them information that we might not be able to extract in any other way, because even though we don't necessarily like or approve of or can vibe with their music, there's like the Matrix, right? Remember the Matrix and the green stuff and the green letters, and homeboy could see the Matrix. When you look at it holistically, you can actually see what young people are dealing with. And I've talked about this so many times that if my son connected to some song about some dude who is self-medicating or, sipping on lean or, taking perks or whatever, my first impulse wouldn't be like, man, we used to rap about selling drugs, man. These kids are so soft. All they do is rap about taking drugs. And I've heard people say this. You've heard people say this. It's horrible. The implication is that they're soft, but they're actually being open and being vulnerable and telling you there's something wrong. They're connecting with a song or an artist that's talking about these things. They're obviously going through something because they can connect to that person, and it's not shrouded in hard rock. It's not shrouded in a wall. They're telling you there's something wrong with me, Dad. But if I'm gonna be like, your music corny, y'all soft, be a man up, and I walk out the room, and then I turn and be like, these kids need to know about their hip hop elders, man. They don't understand it. What? That's what it's the same things. Listen, I'm not saying I'm guilty of it, maybe, to a certain extent at some point, but I know a lot of people who might be listening who are guilty of that. And I'm not trying to call you out to make you sound stupid. Like, we have to go through these talks and have it, because I know that these mental health professionals that I've talked to have recognized it and made me see the light. And they say, nah, we use that information. We stay up to date with what the young people are listening to. It's not our type. It's not our type of music. We don't want to tell them, hey, you need to be listening to this. Nah, just why are you listening to this? Why does it resonate with you? Tell me about it. Tell me what's going on in this song that you can relate to. That's all we need. We could talk later about whether the music being pushed by the mainstream and the corporate, yes, of course, yes, all that. We could talk about that till we're blue in the face. But it's out there. And a lot of times it's not the corporates. It's just these artists uploading to SoundCloud or uploading to YouTube, and these kids are picking up on TikTok. So stop. We waste our time talking about or trying to, like, what's the word? Like, tilting it, Wilton Mills, or I don't know. Or my man Max from Uneffing the Republic says, pissing in the ocean to try to warm it up. Like, we're wasting our time when we have the tools and we have the context that we need to reach our young people. What I love about James Norris, Dr. J, says, oh yeah, we can do all that, but it doesn't have to be young people. Grown folk need therapy too. Grown black men need therapy too. And a hip-hop minded therapy program can connect to grown folk just as effectively as it does to young people. And again, I'm not making this up. When I say Dr. Levy, Dr. Norris, Dr. Travis, and y'all can talk all y'all want about science and weather, whatever, and y'all could be anti whatever, but these are heads. These are hip hop heads. They're not going to make things up. They're doing research. They're recording the data. They're publishing papers and doing the literature, but they are hip hop heads. They're not trying to steer you wrong. They have the receipts that this works. So again, why are we not in every Board of Education meeting? Why are we not in every Psychiatry Association conference? Why are we not everywhere saying we can help our young people if we just stop looking at hip hop as this terrible thing? And what Dr. Norris does with his program, Rhythms of Healing, what Dr. Norris is saying with his program, Rhythms of Healing, is saying we can improve our grown ass lives as well. Because, and he said this in the interview, blew my mind. That's why I love these conversations we have so much. He says, how can we talk to our young people if we haven't resolved our own trauma? We'll just be hitting their trauma with our trauma. And again, communities that have been traditionally underserved, under-resourced, and underloved, that's where it's got to start. So the very thing that people say, and I'm not even gonna get into it. I did a whole editorial this year when Malcolm Jamal Warner came on a talk show and said that, again, with very little nuance, that, today's hip hop is anti-black because of all the perceived negativity within the genre. And I understand where that comes from. I'm not stupid. I get it. But if I'm telling you that the black Dr. James Norris and a bunch of other folks that are either black or very much allied with, the black cause in America are saying hip hop is the tool that we use to save lives, to save young Black lives, to save grown folk lives, then what are you doing by coming out saying it's anti-Black? That's disingenuous. That's a very small sliver of what you're talking about. So what I love about Dr. James Norris is I don't have to say nothing. Manny Faces, white boy on the screen, don't got to say nothing. You could come after me and say, you don't speak for me, you don't speak for my... Okay, he does. Listen to him. Don't talk to me. So I love this conversation because it showed once again that we have the tools. So use them, incorporate them, fund them, stop playing around. If you're not, then I wonder if you are really down for the causes you claim to be. If you're really down for diversity, equity, and inclusivity in your field. If you're not incorporating hip hop, I don't care who you are, a therapist, a doctor, educator, social worker, a business person, media executive. Oh, don't even get me started. I got a whole story about some place I tried to work, and I don't know. I thought we were well aligned, and then I didn't get the position, and then I looked and I saw who got the position. I said, "Y'all don't care about young people. You don't care about young African American people. You don't care," because I came in with at least some knowledge of like some of these issues, and I don't think the person who got that position did. But maybe they were better on paper. I don't know. So Dr. Norris was great. Furthering this, and we're really closing up now because we're late, but also we're almost done. And I love y'all for sticking around with me. What up, Jesse the Imaginer? I appreciate you for being in here. Andrew Wang for hanging with us all this time. Randy Swingham Randy's still in the mix. Randy, I know we got to talk again. We have something to announce to the people later this year. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm excited for it. And the work you do, Randy, with the Music Educator Summit out there, we've talked about in the past. I just want to shout you out. It's a beautiful blending of these worlds. To speak again quickly about hip hop and education, at the end of the year, we talked to the folks at Howard University. HU, if there's anybody out there, I'm not from Howard. I can't necessarily do the call and response, but I'm just giving homage. Dr. Messiah Kabona Clark, just a dope person. Dr. Roger Caruth, equally dope. Talked about the second annual Hip Hop Studies Conference at at Howard University. And they have instituted, which will be starting in the spring, a hip hop minor program. A hip hop minor program at Howard University. Howard, obviously, acclaimed HBCU, was actually the first university to ever have a hip hop course and a hip hop conference. Back in 1991, I believe was the year. A great history of hip hop through Howard University, and recently brought back to life in the last year or two with the Hip Hop Studies Conference. Last year, I presented and I moderated a panel. This year, I moderated a great panel as well. Andrew Wang was there. He presented on Yonkers and the lost city of hip hop, and using sound to hip hop as a way to uplift folks from a cognitive level. It's some great science being worked into the idea of taking all of these cultural moments, intertwining them with science, and making it better for the people. It's brilliant stuff. Shouts to Yonkers and Westchester, AJ Woodson in the building. Great presentation. A lot of great presentations there. I often say if you can get to a hip hop academic conference, sound healing therapy. That's the phrase I was looking for, Andrew Wang. Thank you. If you can get to an academic hip hop conference, go. I don't care if you're not an academic. You could be a practitioner. You could be a fan. You could be, someone who's not associated with any of these things. The inspiration you're going to find. If you think me talking to you for an hour and a half is inspiring, coming to these conferences where you have like 30 people giving their presentations about their work and the stuff that they're doing, the stuff that people I'm talking about, when they kick it for like 20, 30 minutes about what they do, you'll see why I'm so excited about it, why I'm so happy to tell their stories. Listen to them directly. Howard University is leading that charge. Shouts to them. Shouts to Timothy Jones, who's up there, part of the hip hop ed movement. And again, shouts to Dr. Clark, who I don't come from academia. I don't have degrees on my wall. And as much as, I told you my dad was a sociology professor, distinguished professor of sociology, just on a personal tip. And I didn't go to college. And for many years that was to his chagrin. Like I didn't actually I went for like 26, 27 minutes. And I had a couple of kids. I had a kid in high school. I had a kid a year later by a different person. So that was a lot of fun. And by fun, I mean drama and distractions and a lot going on when I was an 18 and 19-year-old. My dad had moved out. It was a whole thing going on. So I didn't actually go to college. I went later to do online classes and I got about, 32 credits under my belt, I guess. I never really, pushed that. I did enough career-wise. I was like, all right, a bachelor's degree is not going to help me out. What bothers me is I can't get a teaching job, even though I clearly would be a good teacher. I think you'd agree. Many have told me this. I sound like Donald Trump. Everyone's told me I'll be a great teacher. They say, sir, you'd be a great teacher. But I would be, but I can't get one normally because unless you're a very, forward-thinking place. This is one of the things we lament with practitioners of hip hop. A lot of people teaching hip hop. A lot of people could be teaching hip hop, but they don't have degrees. But they've been in the culture for 30 years and they know more than Professor Blank from the Department of Blank that was brought in to teach the hip hop. So we want more people with no degrees, but qualifications to be in the academic scene. It's something we're pushing for. That all being said, my dad was a professor. I didn't go to college, but I don't know what I was getting at here. But the fact that hip hop's being incorporated in these colleges and the fact that like I know what I'm getting at. That Dr. Clark invited me based on my journalism work and based on the work that I do, my dedication here, last year to like moderate a panel and these places I give proposals and they let me present. Like they don't have to, I mean, obviously they're not doing me a favor. I'm coming with that work. I'm coming with like smart stuff. And I've been, I will not lower myself to say that I'm not an academic because I don't have degrees. I'm not a scholar because I didn't go to college. I'm as qualified and as scholarly and academic as any of y'all who got, any letters behind your name. But that all being said, I respect it. I thank them. And I hope that through the work that we all do collectively, we'll get more people inspired to come to academic conferences, even though they're not academics, but they're hip hop folk. And so they need to be in the building. We need to hear your perspectives. There was a great, I'm almost done, guys. I know I promised y'all. There was a great session at the conference where it was like a generational thing, right? So you had some of the older professors and guests, from other Jared Ball, Dr. Jared Ball, Mix What I Like was there, very, revolutionary minded professor and media personality. I respect him a lot. Was one of the guests, and Dr. Caruth was there. And it was all young people. I'm talking about like 18, 19, 20, 21, all the college students. And there was this dialogue back and forth. And, the elders are trying to impress upon the young folk some things from hip hop history that they feel that those younger folk need to have embedded in them. The younger folk are trying to tell the elders like, yeah, but y'all not really like seeing it from our point of view. We do have this, that, and the third that you think we don't have. Here's how we do it here. And it was brilliant. And there was some push and pull as these things are going to have. But that's why like they're in college. So they're they're not educators. They're just in college. They're just students, but they live hip hop because like Dr. J. Rawls, my first guest that I talked about tonight at The Ohio State University, says you just don't like call themselves hip hop. They don't say I'm hip hop. Hip hop's my culture. But if you talk to them, hip hop's their culture. And so they're like hip hop cultural natives. Us older folk, we came into it. Like we grew up at the same time as it, and it didn't really start becoming a culture until like the later years. So we evolved into it. These folks it's like digital, just like digital natives. And so they see it differently. Those conversations have to be had. You as a practitioner, you as someone that has nothing to do with hip hop, needs to come into a hip hop conference and be like, I'm a plumber. Why should I care? Or I hate hip hop. Oh God, I address my newsletters sometimes. I say, hey, friends, neighbors, supporters, and haters. First of all, it rhymes. But secondly, I want haters. I want people that hate hip hop. If you know someone right now, if you know someone that hates hip hop, I need you to share this episode with them or copy the link or do something. By the way, give me a thumbs up. If you're loving this, come on, I'm talking my ass off tonight. Give me a thumbs up. At least make sure you're subscribed. I know some people just wandering in, but make sure you're subscribed. Give me a thumbs up. It helps. The YouTubies, the YouTube stuff. But tell a hater. That should be our campaign in 2025. Like we should do, like tell a hater, hashtag tell a hater. Tell a hater, tell a hip hop hater about what we talked about here tonight. Subscribe to the newsletter. Don't even tell them. I know it's like spammy. That might backfire on me. Don't. But forward it to them. You can do that. Like if you're subscribed to the thing, you'll get it and you can forward it to somebody. And then when they get it, it says, were you forwarded this email? Subscribe here. So forward a hater one of my newsletters. A lot of people would say it's not important. Like, why do we need people that hate hip hop? They probably hate us. They probably hate Black people. They're probably racist. Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, 100%. Read my interview, read my editorial on Gangsta Grass and what I talked about there, though. A lot of times, they have these preconceived notions. It's fair. But a lot of times, and I know this because I've talked to people and I've changed their minds personally. And then I realized that there's somebody that like we need. Like, we're not in all the positions we need to be. We're not deans of colleges yet. We're professors and we're tenured professors. That's cool. Jamal Bowman was in Congress trying to do a hip hop task force, but he got voted out. And plus, he wasn't Speaker of the House. Hakeem Jeffries, he likes hip hop, but is it enough? When he becomes, hopefully one day, you know what I mean? But also, is he president? Like, and also, does being president or Speaker of the House help hip hop? No, like, we need to be in positions where we can greenlight curriculum in schools and we can greenlight film project. Like, we're not there yet in all these places. But there are people that are, and they'll give an opportunity if they understand. This is my opinion. If they understand what we understand, then Randy's in the house. Randy said to me a few weeks ago, he says, it's gotten to the point where music educators, he's a music educator, and there's a couple of music educators that listen to this show. It says music educators it's gotten to the point where music educators can no longer ignore hip hop. Like back a little while, it was like, hey, it'd be cool if you incorporated hip hop. No, now it's to the point where you're not doing your job. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but I'm taking it to the next level. You're not doing your job if you're not incorporating hip hop into your music education, ecosystem. Like, that's it. It's no longer what's the word I'm looking for? An elective. It is literally the speech and the social acumen of young people and a lot of older people today. You do your field a disservice, any field. And so anyway, you'll learn this by listening to me, of course. So subscribe to the newsletter, do all the things. But you'll also learn this by coming to these conferences where you hear a lot of people who are doing this thing. Last ones, we're out. Speaking also on a music education tip, music educators would love this conversation with Rainey Antoine Jr. He's a professor at Loyola University in New Orleans. Boy, do I love New Orleans. What a vibe. I'm from New York. I live in Atlanta, but I'm from New York. So every city sucks except New York, because New York, obviously. Atlanta's cool. I can mess with Atlanta. Like, it's a vibe. But, most cities suck, comparatively, because New York. New Orleans, however, New Orleans, that's a vibe. I like New Orleans. But Loyola professor Rainey Antoine Jr. Fun fact, you'll learn this. I don't know if you learned this I may not have talked about it in the in the interview, I interviewed for this job, professor of hip hop at Loyola University. I was on the short list, I guess. I was passed over again, not because I didn't have a degree, but I am very happy in this case that Professor Antoine was given the position. It made perfect sense. He's excellent at it, and it's much more of hip hop from a music ed standpoint. Loyola has a great music program. It's music creation, it's music production, it's music business, not hip hop studies. Not as much the cultural, sociological, anthropological, aspects of it. It's music production. It's the music production and making of music that needed to have a Professor Antoine in the mix. Great conversation. They're ending out the year. And then lastly, when I was at Howard, I talked to J1, Joshua Rayford. He's the VP of music programming at SiriusXM Satellite Radio, basically in charge of all the hip hop stuff. So if you have SiriusXM, I do. You listen to, Shade 45, Rock the Bells. By the way, just a shout out to my shirt because it's just dope. This is a dope design. I don't want to tell you where I got it from because it's kind of a spot I get some of these from, and I don't like to it's like a DJ. You don't want other people to have the records you spin, but I don't want to gatekeep. It's from a website called My Main Man Pat, mymainmanpat.com, and it's pretty dope. Every week there's like 2 designs, and you could buy them for that week. They welcome designs. It's usually hip hop related designs from like independent artists, and you can only buy it for a week and then it's gone. So it's like the supreme of like independent hip hop artisan t-shirt designers. And I got this was done. Come on, this is fire. Anyway, so Rock the Bells reminded me of that. But shouts to J1 Rayford, the VP of music programming. Again, I've gone over several themes tonight about the stuff that I like to personally investigate, interrogate, and sometimes watchdog. And those are things like hip hop and education. A lot of great stuff, a lot of funky stuff, a lot of stuff that needs to be looked at funny. Hip hop and mental health therapy, great when it works. Could be a little exploitative if it's not done right. So we watch for this, right? Hip hop and nonprofits, super dope when it works, super not dope when it's exploitative or when it's not done, when it's disingenuous. And there's plenty of that. And I've talked about it a little bit in the nonprofit sector. It's why I'm reluctant and been slow to build up mine because I'm not going to come in correct. There are a lot of nonprofits in the hip hop space some that are just absolutely fugazi. Some that I just have a philosophical difference with. So we look for these things. And the same thing with SiriusXM, streaming platforms, Spotify. Shout out to my man King Curtis. If you watch another big, I know, look, they so big, they don't know me, and they're not going to shout me out, but I'm not going to gatekeep. My man King Curtis TV, and my man, he don't know me. Great channel. One of the bigger hip hop influencers. Shouts to my man, the company man, Justin Hunt, who I do know and does know me. Shouts to FD Signifier. There's some big hip hop commentators out there, but they Rob Markman, they talk about the music, generally speaking. They don't do what I do in this lane. It's a smaller lane. We're a niche community. We could be niche, right? We're niche together. However, that all being said, he just did a great breakdown on Spotify and how they are sort of cheating. And he's not the only one. He compiled some information that's out there, and he spoke to it from his standpoint, his sort of hip hop mind standpoint, about how Spotify is purposefully cheating independent artists, cheating them out of millions. And it's through a whole insidious thing, right? So we speak truth to power over here. So my man J1 is a cool dude. I was with him at the Capitol building when we did the House of Representatives did the hip hop resolution. He had some part to play in that. We met there briefly. He was on a panel with streaming folks and Tuma from YouTube or wherever he's at these days. It's great. It's an important part of the culture. It's an important part of commerce, but we're not always going to be like softball and cool about it. I asked him a couple of questions I thought were really kind of digging at that. He answered well. I feel like if you're going to have someone in a position of power that kind of dictates how the world is served hip hop at a giant company like that. He's, you know, the, all we could ask for. Like we would hope for that there be someone like that with a genuine feeling for the culture and you know, trying to balance that corporate versus culture. So we had a conversation about that, and I thought that was pretty important. So that might have been the last interview for the year. I think it was. And again, on the YouTube channel that you are tuned into, I didn't even go into the editorials. You know, the thing, what do you call it? Words I manifest, right? There's a bunch. There's definitely a bunch. Again, breaking at the Olympics. I talked about there's a few shorts in here. We talk about how people talk about how great it is to have a female rapper that's back. Like, he brought female rap back. Thanks, Doechii. And I'm like, there's plenty of women rappers that have been, what are you talking about? Just because you pay attention to the mainstream and Doechii broke through to the mainstream, don't act like you haven't seen like Rhapsody and Cyrock and, you know, Snow the Product and Licky Lee and, oh, we do this every week. And, you know, and Shay Noir and, you know, all these people. They don't exist. Like, so we talk about that. The Questlove thing, just little commentaries I make here and there. I have some things to say every now and then, but you can check those out as well. We had a very busy year. Like I said, almost 50 interviews. We went from 99 to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube with no money. I'm not putting money into this. If I do, it comes from y'all. Please donate. Patreon.com/Manny Faces. I do put sometimes into advertising and trying to, you know, boost posts and spread the word a little bit. And yeah, we had just amazing people that we talked to this year. So I plan to keep it going. Obviously, your help helps. And I do podcast work on the side, and I had a very busy and profitable election season. But it's dried up since then. So it's a little bit tough for me financially. Your help does help. And ideally we get to do this all the time. I could do this. I could do this every week. You get your friends, I get my friends, and we could be friends. Oh wait, was that Diddy? I can't, I'm not supposed to quote. Sorry. Anyway, my name is Manny Faces. I'll be here next Monday in a new year. This is it. This is the year-end wrap-up. I gave you everything I got. I gave you everything we talked about this year. If you're not giving me a thumbs up, if you're not subscribed, if you're not sharing this, I don't know what else I can give you. That's all I got. This is the best I could do. But it's pretty good, and we'll be continuing it. So please, thumbs up for your boy. Share this. Shouts to the replay gang. Thumbs up, share. Make sure you subscribed. Don't forget to forward the newsletter to a hater. If you're not subscribed, mannyfaces.substack.com. And you can subscribe, and it's free, and it's filled with all kinds of this kind of stuff. We give dates for, not for me. You can go on a date with me if you want. Like, just ask me on a date. But we give dates for upcoming conferences and interdisciplinary, like, hip-hop events, big ones. Like, I'm not doing every concert in every city in the country. It's impossible. But, you know, like a regional breaking championship from Freestyle Sessions. Yeah. Something happening at the Kennedy Center. Sure. A hip-hop festival happening with Words, Beats, and Life. That'll be on there. Again, Howard's next conference. If we do the global conference on hip-hop education, you know, my organization that I'm affiliated with, if we do that, if I do any live events this year, which I'm planning on, if by some chance, wink, wink, maybe there's I've now started a nonprofit and we want to do some fundraising things, maybe, hint, hint. So it's things like, there might be some book launch things happening, hint, hint, wink, wink, in the spring. As my book comes out, I'll give you more information about that. The newsletter is this place for all this, not just about me, obviously, but all the things I talk about. Plus, if you miss an episode, if you missed an interview, I always send it out to the newsletter. So you can find everything you want. That's it. The year is over. It's going to be an interesting year next year for a number of reasons. And I'm going to keep doing what I keep doing. You keep doing what you keep doing. Please reach out. You can find me easily on the socials. Reach out. Give me a, thumbs up. Like, give me a thumbs up here on the video, but also like just hit me up. I do appreciate, the feedback. We're going to do more. We're back to interview. I did like 3 episodes of no interviews. I got some interviews lined up. I'm sending out schedules. I'm sending out links to get people involved. So we'll be doing more interviews with more people. As you see, the caliber of people I speak to is unparalleled in the hip-hop media ecosystem. There is nobody having these kind of discussions about the breadth and depth of hip-hop music and culture and how it can improve society and uplift humanity more than me, which is fine. Everyone does their own thing. Our lane here is to make sure we amplify and signal boost and highlight the ways that hip hop music and culture can help uplift humanity and improve society. If that's your bag, if that's what you like, and if you do something in those lanes, this is the place to be. I'm really happy and honored that you spend time with me, especially a couple of hours. We went nice and long tonight. It's been a great year. I know y'all tired. I'm tired. The next one, I hit my parlay. Wasn't a big win. I'm a very conservative gambler. I don't really do it at all, but I'm like, I think Josh Hart will get 8 rebounds. Anyway, peace and love to y'all. Thank you all for being here. Natalie Crew, I love you like cooked food. Andrew Wang, speak at districts. Is that for me? Yeah. Hey, listen, if you got a place to hire me, I do keynotes. I do moderation of panels. I do professional development for teachers. I've done them. I've done them. I got paid. I'll show you the check results. I go across the country. I'll hop on a plane and I'll be in your neck of the woods. Bring me out. Flew me up. Bring me out, please. Make some money. But even if it's a budget and I just got to come and cover a cost and make a little bit on top of it, I'll do it because I want to spread this gospel. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. I'm just going back through the chat to see if there's anything I missed. Yo, what up, Jamie? Jaime Hernandez, what up? Again, Randy, thanks for coming through and rocking with us tonight, man. Andrew Wang, you're just so great. And I really appreciate your support. Blaine, thank you. Fantastic show, says Blaine. Thank you. Thanks. This is what we do. Come back next Monday. It'll be next year. It'll be 2025. I was saying when we were younger, 2025 sounded like a futuristic, like the Jetsons type, flying cars and everything. 2025 is madness. It's crazy. But we'll be here. We'll be here. Thank you. Hit me up during the week. You know where I'm at in the socials. Manny Faces Official on Instagram. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I'm done talking. I appreciate y'all. Yeah, I do. I talk to music teachers. I talk to anybody. I'm a talker. Yeah. I don't know. Please, the call to action is make sure you subscribe to the newsletter, mannyfaces.substack.com. Go there now. And again, if you can help out, patreon.com/mannyfaces. You could also give some money to the Substack. There's I think there's like a discount on Substack, whatever. Just give money. This is ridiculous. Yeah, it's not gonna happen by itself. But again, if you're like, nonprofit, can you help out? And I got to talk to Nat because you know what? I remember Nat and Nora were talking about like the nonprofit industrial complex. I'm saying like, we want to make sure we do this right. So I'm trying and I'm going slowly and I'm just one guy. And so if you can help in any way, please let me know. It doesn't have to be financially. And let's go into 2025. I do have some things in the works. We got the book. I got a Discord channel, some place that we can hang out and be in community. You know what? Hold on. If you're still with me, you'll be the first to know. I got to get the link and I'll put it in the chat. And not everyone's on Discord, but some people are. And I just thought it'd be a great place for us to like talk during the week. You know what I mean? Like not just here. Like I want it to be a community, bro. I want us to have like community. So there's the Discord link. If you're on Discord, go get it. The book's going to be great. I'm going to have some more talks about that. The nonprofit, yes, I've already hinted at it. There's something brewing there. So we may have some institutional support if we play our cards right, if we do that game right. It's a whole different world, man. I'm trying to figure it out and go slow. Yeah, and I guess a few other things brewing. But anyway, I'm always working. I'm always down to hear what y'all have to say. If you want to be down with this advisory committee, let me know. Anyway, I'm out. I'm saying too many things that don't matter right now. Peace and love. Have a happy New Year. What are y'all doing for New Year's Eve? I am cooking. I always do we do like the Feast of the Seven Fishes, like basically a seafood night all night long. So we'll be doing that. I'll be home, just whipping it up, Chef Manny with the pot. And that's what it is. So happy New Year to y'all. I guess we'll be watching the New York City, the ball drop, which is, in accordance with prophecy. So we'll be rocking with you. We will celebrate the new year. And then I got to get to work. We don't have any time to waste. There's a lot going on next year that we have to counter. And some of it is done here. One thing I said about the election last year, I was like, well, at least hip hop still, at least America still needs saving. Nobody's figured out that yet. And I don't think it would have stopped needing saving either way, to be honest with you. So there are things that we can do collectively in your world, in your way of life, and in your, neck of the woods. And so I'm hoping that we can keep these conversations going to the new year. So with that, as always, I'm wishing peace and love to you and yours. Happy New Year, y'all. Thank you for rocking with me. It is an honor and a privilege that you spend time with me like this. And let's keep it going. Thank y'all. Peace and love.